Recording in progress.
Hello, Earth Angel, and welcome to episode 25 of the Devotional Drip Embody Your Prayer. I'm so excited for this episode dripped in the textures and codes of devotion and faith and embodiment today. And there's a couple of really yummy things I want to share with you about this episode before we go into the channel. So, first of all, if you are joining us for the first time, hello. My name is Sarah. I am a spiritual and somatic coach, photo witch, and higher self embodiment doula, supporting visionary entrepreneurs, change making creatives, and heart based leaders, artists, innovators, visionaries, and light workers on their path of healing, awakening, embodiment, empowerment, self realization, and revolutionary self love. I am definitely here to work with the sacred rebels, the divine disruptors, and the ones who are here to quite literally embody the prayer that they are and truly deep, deep down know themselves to be. In my work, I offer somatic, artful, playful, sensual, and spiritual portals into self care, self healing, self leadership, awakening, higher self expression, and what we like to call here at Blood, Bone, and Honey, higher self embodiment, which is the integration of your human self and your divine self. No separation. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Devotional Drip. This is a free spiritual growth and personal development coaching series to support leaders and light workers like you, my dear, in caring for themselves in a way that hits the soul level spot, so that you can be more responsible, faithful, and resourced in your truth, in your peace, in your sovereignty, in your power, and in your higher self knowing, no matter what you are faced with on your path. So that is what we are up to here. And this episode, like I said, episode 25, Embody Your Prayer, is special for a few reasons. First, being that this is the year anniversary of the Devotional Drip being birthed into being. I had the prayer for the Devotional Drip on the altar of my heart for many years before I grew into the self that was able to hold the bigness of this transmission. And so I just want to say happy birthday to the Devotional Drip and those of you who have been tuning in, and celebrate my own heart for its willingness to birth this series, because it's led to so much, including a membership, which is the next reason why this series is special. But before I go into that, I actually want to say, check out the very first episode of the Devotional Drip. It's about liberating and surrendering to your higher self vision. And that's going to be such a powerful transmission to receive in tandem with embodying your prayer, which is what we're going to explore today. So, like I said, this episode dripped about a year ago, this very first episode. And then on this episode, a year later, this series has really supported me in so many ways and supported the community in so many ways. And it has led to the birthing of the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership. If you're curious about the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership, I talked about it on the last episode, the free Higher Self Embodiment Masterclass, where we explored the self permission, not just explored, we explored and we ignited, activated, and embodied the self permission to go in and glow up from the inside out. That was the temple gate opening for the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership. So if you're curious about what we're up to in the membership and you want to hear more about it, I talked so much about it in that last episode. Highly recommend checking it out, even if you break it down into a couple of different chunks. I broke down in the description of that episode how you can work with that transmission, because it is 5.5 hours long. 5.5, we love that. In numerology, 5 points to change. And so if you've really been feeling like a change calling you, change is God. Change is the divine. The only constant is change. So the only constant is this divine force, this life force that's ever flowing. So if you've been feeling this call to change, if change has been calling you, please check out that episode and drop into that transmission and give yourself the gift of being in that movement practice. It is free. It is beautiful. I'm leaving it up for you. I'm just feeling so deeply called to just let that live on the Blood, Bone, and Honey YouTube channel for now. So check that out. If you're curious about what we're up to in the membership, you can also click the link in the description of this video to go check out the different tiers of the membership. Even if you're already a part of the membership, maybe you are feeling the call to upgrade so that you can access the corresponding 7 pillars of higher self embodiment, sacred movement practice, and meditation that's going to go along with this drip. So you heard that right. If you're catching this on YouTube, I will be offering a corresponding sacred dance, somatic movement, a little bit of yoga, and some meditation and visualization practice that corresponds with the theme of this devotional drip, which is about embodying our prayer. So you can join the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot to get access to that. If you're already in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot and you're signed up to get the movement practice, welcome. You're going to be receiving this video before it goes public on YouTube. The devotional drip will remain a free ministerial offering, but then you can access the paid version through the membership. If you're already a part of the membership and you're receiving the movement practice, I'm going to point you to the description in your video, which is going to be different than those of you who are watching this on the Blood, Bone, and Honey YouTube. If you are in the membership and you're watching this, you can click the description of this video to take you to your corresponding 7 pillars of higher self-embodiment, sacred movement practice, and meditation. I'm so excited for you to have access to that. And then, of course, you'll also have access to your playlist there. So be sure to check that out. And then you'll also, of course, have access to your somatic movement and journal prompts. So you'll find that in your description. And if you want to join us there, again, you can join the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership to get access to all of this. The tiers start at $5 a month and they go to $77 a month. So you're getting a lot for the investment that you're making. I just want to also shout out real quick, we have something very special right now that's a part of the Honey tier, which is Tuesday and Friday mind body centering yoga practices with my teacher and friend and collaborator Nina B of Centering Life. So if you join at the Honey tier, you're not only going to get access to the 7 pillars of higher self-embodiment sacred movement practice, plus a bunch of other goodies that you can read about at the link in the description on the Patreon, but you're also going to get access to these free classes every Tuesday, not free classes, these live classes every Tuesday and Friday, co-facilitated by myself and my teacher, Nina B of Centering Life. You do not want to miss this offer. Please check it out. These classes are so transformational. And I've been working with Nina for the last 7 years. So much of my methodology, especially around somatic movement and yoga, has been passed down to me through Nina's teachings and transmissions. So to experience us teaching together is to experience working with a lineage. And that's a really, really powerful thing. So come in, give yourself the gift of these practices that are not only regulating for our nervous systems, but as Nina would offer, titrating. So maybe we no longer need to regulate, force, shove, fix ourselves. Maybe it's just giving ourselves the space to titrate, to cleanse, to clear, to move the energy, to drain it out so that we can be a vessel to what? Embody our prayer. Nina's mind-body centering yoga classes and also her methodology around this, which is informed by 45 years of practice on her part, which is just such huge devotion, and there's so much wisdom there that's being shared. what this has done for me in terms of my personal journey of healing from trauma and abuse and all kinds of incredibly high sensation experiences in my body. What this practice has done for me is profound. I quite literally used to live in fight or flight. I used to be addicted to cortisol. I used to be addicted to chaos. And it was through falling in love with my mind body connection, which eventually led me to my higher self connection, and the capacity to resource myself and titrate my nervous system. Falling in love with my capacity to do that is what allowed me to heal myself and continues to empower me to heal myself at deeper levels. That is the conversation we're having in these mind body centering yoga classes. And Nina's work is profoundly supportive for those of us who experienced any developmental trauma, especially in early childhood, especially in those first 7 years, especially in the womb, especially in birth, especially when the being was mushy and gushy and tender and imprintable, and perhaps missed certain steps of development, perhaps missed certain connections in the mind body nervous system that are now fundamental and showing up in your adult life. That was so real in my lived experience and continues to be something that I investigate in my own self-healing and personal development and higher self-embodiment journey. And so I just want to speak to that. If anyone is experiencing high sensation trauma at this time, or even what's registering as self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, the root charge of whatever is coming up feeling really deep and old and ancient. That's because it is. It lives deeply in the body, and it's being asked, it's asking to be expressed. Nina talks about trauma as unprocessed experience. We're going to process some of that today in the drip. Those of you who are in the membership and getting the 7 pillars of higher self-embodiment movement practice, we're going to process a lot of that today. And then if you'd like to take that practice deeper and bring it into more of a yin practice and get into some stillness and some classical yoga practice mixed with super supportive mind, body, nervous system practices, join us in the MBCY Mind, Body Centering Yoga Tuesday and Friday live classes, which also always have a replay if you can't join us live. That is what we're up to in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot. We are no longer just having the conversation. We're now taking the conversation into practice, and we're doing it consistently, and we're doing it together, and we're showing up even when we don't want to, and we're reteaching ourselves what devotion looks and feels like from the inside out. We're reclaiming our right to rinse ourselves out and fill back up with the stories, the beliefs, and the textures of consciousness that leave us feeling good and fed and nourished and full and ready to serve, versus depleted and not good enough and damaged and broken. Can I get a hallelujah? So that's what we're up to. Links in the description. Would love to see you there if that resonates. Changing my body position because we're already going in and we're about to go in deeper. Thank you for being here with me today. I know that there are so many places that you could be. So the fact that you're choosing to be here and receive this transmission, whether you're already a part of the membership or not, I see you. I bow to you. I bow to you for taking time to be here, for taking the currency of your consciousness, the currency of your time to spend reflecting upon the light within you. I want to go into our transmission now. Episode 25, Embody Your Prayer. We're going to start out with what it means to embody our prayer. In order to do that, I want to offer you some windows into what embodying our prayer might look like. So let's start out with this beautiful list that I channeled for you. And I'm going to invite you to close your eyes, tune into your heart, and receive this. And maybe you experience the embodiment of your prayer in a new way today. Maybe prayer is a high sensation word for you. Maybe you have a deep relationship and history with prayer. Maybe you've never even worked with it before. Maybe it feels really intimidating. Maybe it feels really icky. Maybe it feels really intriguing and it's something new you're starting to explore. Wherever you're coming to this drip from, it is all valid. And please remember, this is just all offering that I'm putting on your altar. I am not the authority. You are the authority. So let these words hit you and then be in your authority as you scan and discern what is for you, what is not for you, what you're going to carry forward with you, what you're going to leave behind. We're going to drop in together right now and just do a little meditation around embodying our prayer. And this means to embody our truth. To embody our prayer is to embody our truth. Maybe inhaling and exhaling into truth in your body and seeing where truth hits for you today. To embody my prayer means to embody my truth. And then next, moving on to embodying our desire. I'm going to say embodying your desire. To embody your prayer means to embody your desire. So you took a breath into truth. Now maybe take a breath into desire. What does desire bring up? Maybe there's some guilt. Maybe you can just exhale that guilt out. Maybe there's shame. Maybe you can just exhale that shame out. Inhaling into embodying your desire. And then embodying our prayer means to embody our higher self. So maybe take a breath into embodying my higher self. To embody my prayer means to embody my higher self. And what does that feel like in this moment to give yourself permission to do that? Moving on to embodying our prayer, embodying your prayer being the invitation to embody what you love. When I embody my prayer, I embody what I love. Taking a breath into what you love. Claiming that when you embrace and embody what it is that you love, you embody the prayer that you are. That feels good. Oh, I just have to embody what I love. And then from that space, I embody my prayer. Wait, my job is to feel good. My job is to embody what I love, to seek that out and to do it more often. Oh, I think I could do that. So maybe noticing where your consciousness is perhaps feeling like it could get on board with some of these things. Maybe to embody our prayer means that we can, next piece I want to offer you, embody more of our true expression. To embody my prayer means to embody more of my true expression. So now we're bringing in embody your truth and embody your higher self-expression, and we're weaving them into one. When I embody my prayer, it means that I'm embodying my true expression. So when I embody my true expression, I am embodying the prayer and I am the offering to the world. There's this reframing around I have to work really hard to be of service to planet Earth. When the rewiring right now is I actually have to just embody my truth, embody my desire, embody my higher self, embody what I love, embody more of my true expression. Next one, embody my multidimensionality. Last one, and communicate with spirit. Communicate with spirit in order to do my work, to do the work that I'm here to do. The work is now embodying truth, embodying desire, embodying your higher self, embodying what you love, embodying your most true, authentic expression, embodying your multidimensionality, and embodying your communion with spirit. That is the task. That's what's on the altar. That is what we're being called to be with as light workers right now on planet Earth. To embody your prayer means to be love in action. I want to point to 2 more codes around embodiment and prayer. So, embodiment, pointing to presence and integration. Prayer, pointing to communion and feeling. So when we're working with the code of embodiment, we're working with the code of presence, and we're working with integrating our shadow self with our light self, our human self with our divine self. The parts of us that we have been programmed to not embrace with the parts of us that we're already embracing, merging as one. So embodiment as presence and integration. Prayer as communion, communion with the divine, communion with life, all life being an expression of the divine through the mechanism of feeling. So these are the codes that we're in today. I want to start with a reading from this book called Sacred Relationships, The Practice of Intimate Erotic Love by Anaya Sophia and Padma Anand Prakasha. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. Sacred Relationships. This was suggested to me by one of my Akashic Records teachers. So she teaches about accessing the Akashic Records, which you may have heard of described as the library of creation, casual. And one of my teachers also speaks about the Akashic Records being held within our diaphragm and within our breath. So our Akashic Records hold all information, past, present, future, expression of self, lifetimes, etc. I am not an Akashic Records teacher, so we're not going to go too deep into that today, but just honoring Erica, one of my teachers who invited me to dive into this book, to say that we are the library. Just like we are the prayer, we hold all the information. So when you go to work with someone to get a past life reading or an Akashic Records reading, they're working directly with you and your channel and the records that you have stored on your own soul, on your own experience, on your own journey through the matrix of form. But you ultimately are the wisdom keeper. These teachers, these record accessors, like archivists, like sacred librarians, can help you go in and access, just like I'm doing now in my own way as a guide, right? I'm inviting you to go inside and look and research. But ultimately, I'm pointing you to the keys that you already have, because again, you're the authority. So just to bring in that code around the Akashic Records and you as the record keeper, you're also going to be tapping on, and this is actually a phrase of one of my other coaches and teachers, Honor the Lineage, Des Davis of The Rich Witch Life. She talks about like our inner children, or even the wounded ones within us, as the record keepers, the ones who have the information and the intel on what happened. Again, Nina would talk about this as trauma as undigested and unprocessed experience. Those record keepers have those records of what happened to you, and those records inform your beliefs, which inform your identity, which inform the way that you take action out in the world. So when we're looking at embodying our prayer, bringing this back to embody your prayer means to be love in action. In order to be love in action, we're going to need some codes around how that might look, how that might work, and what specifically we're being called to look at right now as we're being invited to embody our prayer. So this book, Sacred Relationships, offered to me by one of my Akashic Records teachers, speaks about embodiment this way. Embodiment, the representation or expression of energy in a tangible or visible form. So the manifest of vibration is embodiment. So your embodiment is a result of the resonance and the vibration that you're carrying, which is where, as people heal and embody more of their higher selves, they also start to quite literally physically transform and will start to look different, but simultaneously more like themselves. You may experience this in your journey of higher self embodiment, like you're transforming and you're changing, but you're actually feeling like more of your true self. So this is pointing to embodiment, the representation or expression of energy in a tangible or visible form. Delight in this entire universe as permeated with divine awareness and every area of your body, your feet, your face, your shoulders, made out of divine awareness. The body of the planet beneath you, out beyond the furthest horizons, the stars and the reaches of space, all are arising from God consciousness. Know this and dissolve into peace. Lorin Roach, The Radiance Sutras. So this invitation is to delight in the entire universe as permeated with divine awareness. So it's pointing to everything in the universe being permeated with this divine awareness, including you. We could call this divine awareness our higher selves. This divine, benevolent, aware consciousness that is always loving us, rooting for us, guiding us, supporting us, speaking to us from within and all around us, because everything is fair game in physical reality for our higher self to communicate to us through. So this passage is pointing our consciousness to remember that, oh, right, everything is permeated with divine awareness. We've got Wiggins here. This is one of my familiars, if you have not had the pleasure of meeting him. Thank you for joining us, Wiggy. Okay, so going on in this passage, we are journeying into the greatest of all mysteries, the birth on earth of embodied human beings. This is what's happening right now on the planet. The birth of embodied human beings that can contain within themselves all of the opposites of this most holy and glorious universe. So it's already pointing us to what we talked about earlier in terms of embodiment being about presence and integration. Integration. These beings can embody all of themselves, all of the opposites, all of what may seem as opposing qualities or parts that cannot or should not be together. There's this invitation to reclaim all of the parts as a necessary part of the whole. No part of us left out in the fires of our own self-judgment or the cold of self disassociation, which is a result of being programmed to not welcome those parts in, right? So this passage is pointing to, we are journeying right now on planet Earth into the greatest of all mysteries, the birth on earth of embodied human beings that can contain within themselves all of the opposites of this most holy and glorious universe. So this says you get to be your human self and your divine self at once. No parts are wrong. No parts are not sacred enough, not holy enough. Today on this drip, we are reclaiming all parts as holy and sacred as you embody your prayer. And you embody that you are the prayer. Just like you are the legacy, and you are the purpose, and you are the path, and you are the altar, and you are the temple, and you are the vessel, and you are the one that has your thoughts, not the one that is your thoughts. And what good news, because that means at any point and any time, you could decide to change that thought, change that belief, change that pattern, change that thought pattern, and reorient to the fact that you're love, and you're here to embody that, and you're here to remember that. You're here to delight in this entire universe that is permeated with divine awareness. You, my dear, close your eyes and take a breath on this, are permeated by divine awareness. So I promise we'll get beyond this sentence. Y'all know me, I get into it when we start going in. So the invitation here is that we are journeying into the greatest mysteries of all mysteries, a time on the planet that has been prophesized about and unprecedented. Like, this is a big moment of transmutation, transformation, and claiming our right to pray, claiming our right to be the bridge between heaven and earth, which is also to say, to be the bridge between the ego and the heart, the third dimensional realm and the fifth dimensional realm. We are here to be the bridge keepers for ourselves and humanity. If you're a light worker, that's your task. That's all of our shared purpose. So it would make sense that you'd be guided to bridge this gap in yourself first, right? Like, where do I need to bridge the gap between myself and myself? This passage pointing to the birth on earth of embodied human beings that can contain within themselves all of the opposites of this most holy and glorious universe. So here to embody opposites. Within these bodies, we shall experience the deepest love and compassion ever conceivable. All the myriad frequencies of light and sound, all of the galvanic, volcanic powers that manifest the universe in serenely dynamic, dancing harmony. If you haven't thought about the energy that created the universe as a volcanic power in a minute, I'm going to invite you to tap into that, because the light rocks hard. I was just mentoring this beautiful woman who was coming into her psychic gifts this past weekend, and she was talking about this fascination that she had had with the dark and demons and wanting to practice dark magic, etc., etc. And I totally get that, and I also explored that path at one point. And what I discovered is that the brightest light holds the most opposing pole of darkness. So the archangels, to me, register as also the potential to embody these dark demonic frequencies, but the fact that they choose to worship and honor the light within them and in all creation is what makes them archangels. It's not that they don't have a shadow self, it's that they've chosen to integrate that self in service of the Most High. And so when I was mentoring this woman and I invited her into that space, she was able to experience the light as this sort of like volcanic presence. That why would you even want to fuck with any frequency lower than that? Because that ultimately is what we're all hungry for. Is that volcanic, all-loving, eruptive power and love that pours from the divine and nothing less. And the brightest light also shines in the depth of the darkness. And I don't know about you, but in the depth of my own darkness, I really prayed for a light to find me. And it did. And it continues to again and again. Like, I'm still here. You're still here. If you're watching this, we're still on the planet. We made it. So there's this huge invitation to honor the reverence of that, like the reverence of you being alive, of there being this benevolent, all-loving consciousness that's guided you to this moment that through this transmission is going to ask you to embody and drink it in deeper into your blood and bones, not because it needs you, but because you need it. And I can guarantee it's what you're actually hungry for. And beneath all of the wants, it's what you've actually been praying for. Because this is a shared prayer across light workers who are here to embody these opposing forces within us right now, integrated selves, fully human, fully divine, no apology about it. And that is some rock star level work. That is some revolutionary self-love. So within these bodies, we shall experience the deepest love and compassion ever conceivable. All the myriad frequencies of light and sound, all the volcanic powers that manifest this universe in serenely dynamic dancing harmony. All of this shall take place, not in some far-flung planet or imaginary astral world, but right here, right now, upon the earth and in your body. This birth is the organic manifestation of a profound, wordless, non-dogmatic understanding of the true self in its true nature as stainless awareness. This birth of awakened consciousness creates human beings that ecstatically open their sacred hearts to invite the deepest penetration of light so enlightenment can happen in the depths of matter itself. This is what I'm talking about in terms of the light penetrating and reaching the deepest darkness. It's like the part of us that's thirsty on an individual and collective level. Anyone who is a perpetrator on planet Earth right now is 100% acting from pain. And they're 100% acting from this place that love has not yet reached. So it is 100% revolutionary and radical for you to allow love to drip into you and reach the place within you that has not yet reached. And when you do that on behalf of your soul, and you do that on behalf of humanity. And then, my dear, you are embodying your prayer. You are embodying the prayer for humanity to awaken and remember itself and know itself as not separate. So this birth of awakened consciousness creates human beings that ecstatically open their sacred hearts to invite the deepest penetration of light, so enlightenment can happen in the depths of matter itself. This alchemy is so deliciously intent on fulfilling its quest that it continues to pour its celestial frequencies into the bowels of these human beings, into their very cells, which have been covered with the dust of ignorance for so long. This is to say that's been covered with forgetfulness. I believe in intentional separation. I believe there's a reason that Mary Magdalene's Gospels were taken out of the Bible at the Council of Nicaea, because she talked about self-realizing from the inside out, embodying our higher selves, us actually being an expression of the divine, and us going through these 7 initiatory phases in order to embody more of our true self and higher self, and that actually being a part of the very valid, very real journey of spiritual awakening, which is just literally the journey of being a human. Spiritual awakening, we talked about this in the Higher Self Embodiment Masterclass. It's one of the first things that I said. You want a spiritual experience? Wake up in your human body. Let love reach the place that it hasn't reached yet. That's what everyone is experiencing in these plant medicine journeys. Love is embracing them and touching them and reaching where the consciousness of love has not yet reached, and the plants are helping them access that, feel that, embody that. Because when we have the experience, and we'll talk about this with feeling in a moment, when we have the experience of feeling and embodying it, it changes our physiology. We have a new memory. Talk about record keepers. We have a new record to pull up. We remember what that experience of tasting that love felt like. So coming back to our passage here, this alchemy is so deliciously intent on fulfilling its quest that it continues to pour its celestial frequencies into the bowels of these human beings, into their very cells, which have been covered with the dust of ignorance, forgetfulness, separation, amnesia, illusion that we have to earn and deserve and prove our worth when it is already done. Our divine inheritance is here to be claimed. We belong, period. But we've been shrouded in this doubt for so long. And if you're watching this, maybe you've been shrouded in the witch wound, which is this wound that you're going to be killed or in danger for shining and sharing your light. So we need the love, we need the divine to reach that deep within us and scoop those parts of us up and love them into their liberation so that we can call them along for the ride, because we need those parts of us. We need even the parts of us that are scared. They've got codes and wisdom and value that and truth and lessons that we need. So these human cells once followed a path of dark obedience to decay, death, grief, and ignorance. But in the core of our divine blueprint, we have this incorruptible longing to be set free and to dance to the orchestration of love. So even if in the human cells, there's been this imprinting of you need to earn, you need to prove, you should be ashamed, you should be scared, you should feel guilty, you need to censor that, shut that off, shut that down. You don't have a right to want what you want. Feel guilty about that. Oh, prayer isn't real, magic isn't real. None of that's real. You just need to march in rhythm with the matrix. Just shut up already, why don't you? And just make it easy for the rest of us. That voice of the matrix that would have us controlled in a state of amnesia and illusion that we're not our higher selves, believe that we don't actually have access to our psychic gifts. All of that shit is because it's so much easier to control and dominate a generation, a people's, an entire global world that are in a state of not remembering who it is that they actually are, when their cells are literally following a path of decay and darkness. It's easy to control those people versus the people that are here to, no matter how dark the path may get, remember at every impasse, this is you, babe. No matter how dark the path gets, you're here to embody and remember at every impasse, at every part in the labyrinth that gets a little dark and a little scary and a little like, oh fuck, am I going to make it out? Your job is to quite literally remember that there is an inextinguishable light. Remember that, resource it, connect to it, ask it to guide you, and embody it. Because that light is that blueprint that, as this passage is talking about, satisfies this longing that we have, all of us, to be set free and to dance in the orchestration of love. Moving on, the real message contained within this pearl of wisdom is this: the birth of the divine human manifests as an embodiment, not just an idea or dream. Hence, embody your prayer. So, the divine human, your higher self embodiment, your higher self, manifests as a physical embodiment. You are your higher self is not just some cute thing that we're saying here. It's something that we're teaching ourselves and our consciousness to get on board with so that we can actually be it and do it. Because this is saying it's not just an idea or a dream, it's real. Going back to embodying our prayer means to be, to quite literally be love in action. So, it is real, it is solid, and it is inevitable, this divine embodiment that you're being called forth to. So, choose now, beloved one, to be a living, breathing, vibrant, intensely focused hologram of the whole transcendent, immanent universe. Your very DNA is awakening to its potential and calling you to embody the new human right here and right now. Close your eyes and receive this. Like, what does the inextinguishable light within you want to point you to in terms of like you birthing your higher self expression right here, right now? You being willing to, after leaving this transmission, maybe in the next few breaths, choosing to embody more of your light, more of your true self. What does it feel like to close your eyes and see your entire inner realm illuminated by a light that cannot be extinguished? How does that inform your self-concept and identity in a new way? Maybe it aligns it more to a higher self-identity. Interesting. When I meditate on the light and love that I am, I become that. That's also what the law of attraction teaches us, right? What we meditate on, what we focus on, we become. You are what you eat, that old saying, right? Like, we are what we focus upon. So focus upon the love within you, focus upon the light within you, and you will embody more of that. And then again, to embody your prayer means to be that love in action, to be that light in action. So how do we take this embodiment of the self and expand it into the embodiment of union? The deepest mystical wisdom derived from every form of sacred embodiment is that when we come together in union, we are called to act. Embodied and awakened couples are called to extend out into the world and offer the union of their hearts in a variety of spontaneous and intentional actions. So this is talking about relationships because that is what this book is about. But I was pulling this passage, and what my higher self was guiding me to invite you into meditating on is how this divine union is also this divine union within ourselves, We could say our inner divine masculine and divine feminine as principles of consciousness. We could say our inner higher self merging with our human self. We could say this union and this coming together of all the different parts of us that are coming into healing at this time. But there's this union, there's this coming together, there's this integration. And that is what this book is saying is literally the form of sacred embodiment. This integration is the form of sacred embodiment. Sacred embodiment is this integration. As we spoke about earlier, embodiment as presence and integration. Prayer as a state of communion and a state of feeling. Again, we're going to explore this physically in our movement practice. So if you'd like to join us for that, join the Blood, Bone, and Honey pot starting at the blood tier. But for the purpose of this drip, I want to say that this passage is pointing us to this union of our divine self and our human self being the true nature of embodiment. Like when we're remembering that we're fully human and fully divine, Wiggins wants to pop in here for a second. Hello. We are in the truest, most authentic, most integral form of our embodiment. So moving along with this, embodiment is being present to all of your feelings. Pleasurable and painful. Embodiment is being present with your body, its aches, its growing pains, its deep bliss, and its fulfillment. Embodiment is being present to every sensual movement and sensation in making love and the currents of feeling that weave you together in everyday life. Embodiment allows you to become one with the beloved in feeling, movement, action, and thought. We cannot hide ourselves away by losing ourselves in the transcendent. If we are torn or separated within, we can either become addicted to the light or lost in the matter. Neither of these polarities will serve Earth at this time. Clear. We must pull the light into the dark depths of the human existence. In sacred union, we must be steadfast and continue to birth ourselves into an integrated self, loving enough to face all that happens, luminous and clear enough to bear the light, and powerful enough to respond in an earthly embodied way. The holy marriage, known as embodiment, calls us to be fully light in matter, fully embodied divine humans. And this holy marriage today being between your human and divine self. Closing with a passage on this, a little poem from the Radiant Sutras. The universe is here to reveal unlimited splendor, infinite diversity of expression. No one can withstand her allure. Adore the colors and the shapes of her enchantment and know the one who permeates it all is a great lover, deeply relating above and below, mortal and immortal, transient and eternal. Perceive the terrifying beauty. Be free to suffer and to be thrilled, to tolerate intolerable ravishment. Loren Roche, The Radiance Sutras. And then here's the holy prayer. It talks about the beloved Mother and Father God in this. Please replace that with whatever language resonates for you. You could experience this as your own inner mother and inner father. You could replace beloved mother and divine father or whatever words it uses in here with universe or higher self. I'm just going to read what it says for the sake of efficiency and moving through this, and for the sake of just closing the portal on this part of the drip so that we can start to transition into feeling, which is the next little excerpt I want to read for you. And then that goes in tandem with our first card. So closing this with a meditation that's going to be weaving itself into our movement practice as well. And I highly invite you to be with for this Mercury retrograde. Mercury officially goes into retrograde on the 9th, 9/9, and then ends on October 2nd. Of course, there's the pre-shadow like before the retrograde, and there's the shadow after the retrograde. So it extends a little bit before and beyond that time period, but this is going to be a really important meditation for this time. So here's the holy prayer to go along with this reading. Beloved Mother, Father, God, we ask for the courage to die to our false selves, to die to every separation, every dualistic thought and feeling, every connection to our past, all our karmic confusions of every lifetime, so that we can become liberated right here, right now. We pray to embody passion, courage, and trust, so we may be birthed into our authentic, divine, human selves, so that we can each serve the birth with all of our mind, body, and soul. We pray to become cleared from the false self that keeps us imprisoned and paralyzed in secret ways. Let your divine will be done. You are the one that gives with fathomless mercy and from immeasurable love. Help us to receive all of the goodness you are extending to us now and forevermore. Amen, aho, and so it is. It is done, it is done, it is done. By the power of three, a perfect trinity, it is done. Releasing the past self, dying onto the past self. In this moment, you can close your eyes, bring your awareness to the light within you, and just pray that, embody your prayer that any past version of self that's ready to just be integrated and loved into light, ask that may it be so at this time. And you can just see anything within you that feels sort of dark and tender, just being embraced by this light, letting this light permeate and pour through you. You can inhale through your feet and exhale through your crown, and just let this light quite literally rinse you from the inside out. If you want that as a meditation, that was our higher self meditation for the month of September, because Virgo says we are the hands and feet of God. So the dying to the past self code is very present. And in order to withstand and embrace and be present for that death without collapsing, we need to rinse ourselves with light. So you can guide yourself through that practice. If you'd like to be guided through that practice, that meditation will be waiting for you in the Blood, Bone, and Honey pot. And that's available at our $5 level. So just saying, there's a lot there at that $5 level. Okay. I want to move on to the feeling passage. I know that we're already deep into this transmission. I want to read the feeling passage. I want to point to our first card being Inanna, which really talks about this integration that we've been pointing to. And then we'll have a couple of little wisdom pearls for each of these cards, and then we will complete this part of the drip. And for anyone who would like to join us in the movement practice, you'll be able to do so to integrate and digest all of these words and concepts. Like, these are big concepts. So if you're feeling like, wow, this is so potent for me, but this is so much information, like I'm gonna really need to digest this in my body, know that that's why the membership now exists, because we're gonna take these codes, these big huge concepts that we're willing to take a bite out of, chew, and do some work around, because that's what we're doing here in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Coven. In the Blood, Bone, and Honey pot membership, we're going to take those and work those quite literally into our blood and bones. So coming into feeling, that is our next little meditation for this drip. So feeling, the substance of the soul, the language of the soul, or how the soul communicates to other souls and to the divine. Can we just anchor into that definition for feeling for forever? the substance of the soul, the language of the soul, or how the soul communicates to other souls and the divine, that's feeling. Okay, we're going to embrace that. And then we have Carl Jung here coming forward to say, there can be no transforming of darkness into light and of apathy into movement without emotions. Feelings are the very substance of our souls. They are the cause of our pleasures and pains. Most thoughts we have are weekends, are the effect of unexpressed, unresolved, and unfelt feelings that are just under the surface. Thoughts are created as a byproduct of those feelings, and usually as a denial of those feelings. Thoughts do not control you. It is the unresolved and unexplored feelings that do. So, pointing to the importance of clearing the vessel. When a soul has a deep emotional release and healing, sobbing sweetly, devastating tears from the depths of the heart, the mind becomes still, silent, and clear, and thought patterns automatically dissolve. The mind is no longer able to think, and destructive thought patterns, once focused around the denial and resistance of these feelings, now have the quietude to dissolve. This is where and why and how I literally translated, channeled, and gave the transmission of the 7 pillars of higher self-embodiment in the first place. Because I was like, my clients need a way to work with their feelings as wisdom, and they need a map for how to create a sacred space for themselves to get in touch with that, have an emotional release so that they can create a pathway for themselves, and they can come into their self-care practice in one feeling state and leave their self-care practice in another feeling state and experience that transformation. That's where I talk about self-care that actually hits the spot on a soul level. It's exactly what this is talking about here. Moving from resistance to feeling to embrace of feeling. Because we know that when we acknowledge and release the feeling, honor the emotion as energy in motion, there's wisdom on the other side of that. That feeling is an ally bringing us to something that we need to know. Our feelings have wisdom. The mind is no longer in control when we are in a loving feeling state. And this is why we move. This is why we go into our movement as meditation. This is why we're going to take the concept of embodying our prayer into the actual doing of that in our movement practice, because it shifts our consciousness. Feelings are waves that marry light into the body. Feelings are waves that marry light into the body. In the process of manifestation, the energy of feeling allows pure light to be experienced and to embody in this dimension. So it's pointing to manifestation as the embodiment of this light. Without feeling, thoughts and intentions cannot manifest. They simply create a hardened, electrified outer coating. So if you've ever tried to manifest without embodying what it is that you actually want, like it's already here, like embodying the feeling state, you may have experienced like, oh, but I've been manifesting this, it's not arriving. That's because there's a call to shift the internal feeling state to actually match that which you're calling in. Because I'm getting like talk is cheap. Like words without intention isn't going to work, because manifestation is happening based on feeling. it's saying in the process of manifestation, the energy of feeling allows pure light to be experienced and to embody in this dimension. So maybe you want to manifest something, but you somewhere in your subconscious don't believe that you actually deserve it. It's going to be hard to manifest that. Which is why we want to come into our practice to create the divine disruption and embody that feeling of, oh, I have every right for this to come in. And then that changes us on a mind, body, nervous system level. And then we're quite literally more receptive to that which we've been praying for. And hence we are again embodying our prayer. So as a byproduct, actually, let me say this first. So without feeling, thoughts and intentions cannot manifest. They simply create a hardened, electrified outer coating. The soul made of feeling is the master. The mind that expresses is the servant. So the soul made of feeling, the heart as the master, as the higher self. The mind that expresses as the servant. The mind, we say here a lot on the devotional drip, in service to the heart. In the process of manifestation, the energy of feeling carries an emotional frequency that allows pure light to actually become embodied in this dimension. As a product only of the mind, thoughts often resist the living field of awakening that is all around us at any given time. So we can't just rely on our thoughts to tell us the truth. When we allow our feelings to unfurl and reveal their interior substance, the interior substance of our feeling, how divine, we enter the process of alchemy. So when we allow our feelings to unfurl like we do in our practice and reveal their interior substance, we enter the process of alchemy. So therefore, our process can actually be alchemy. If you've done the 7 pillars of higher self-embodiment with me before, you know that it is an alchemical practice. If you want to experience that practice for free, tap back into episode 24, Self-Permission to Go In and Glow Up. About 3 hours in, we started our movement practice. So you can get a taste of that. So then it says alchemy is an experience that joins 2 or more things together to form a single entity. So in our practice, we're able to bring together fragmented parts of ourselves into a single unified field, form, and entity known as our higher selves, all expressions of ourself as our higher self and loved by our higher self. The peace that lies beyond all understanding comes from deeply integrated feelings, not thoughts. The mind cannot understand feelings, for as soon as you think about a feeling, it becomes a thought. Only through purely experiencing all of our feelings nakedly as they are, without analysis, can we enter the depth of the heart and the substance of the soul. When we let go of the mind and drop down into our hearts where feeling lives, we can become one with a person, object, circumstance, or living being such as a tree. With feelings, the keys that open the door are vulnerability, expression, breath, and willingness. We have to be able to surrender our little bit of willingness to grace and allow embodiment to begin. When 2 people dissolve into a shared feeling at the same time, they lose themselves completely, becoming nothing except the feeling and becoming one instantly. This is talking about an orgasmic experience, which you can experience through your breath, which you can experience through tantric states of communion with the divine and with your higher self. I have had this experience, and I've had many, many clients and sisters report that they've experienced this before in the 7 pillars of just having this like ecstatic divine union, sometimes erupting in tears or states of bliss or a download coming through. Like, this is literally pointing to, with feelings, the keys that open the door are vulnerability, expression, breath, and willingness. We have to be willing and able to surrender our little bit of willingness to grace and allow the embodiment to begin. So it's talking about this process that we go through in our movement practice, in our self-care practice, in our embodiment practice of surrendering and opening through breath and willingness and vulnerability. And then it is through that tender vulnerability that we experience this union. There's something I'll say about faith later. I just want to scroll to it now because it just feels important to point to. Where is this? Faith. I think it's under our hawk. Yes, here it is. So this texture of faith being from a soft heart, and this soft heart arriving through our willingness to open and feel what's there. Like, we don't get to that tender, soft heart by gripping to the hardness. We get there by opening. And it's in that opening, it's in that vulnerability, it's in that saying yes, just at that next depth and texture of willingness, that we experience more of the divine, but it's not comfortable and it doesn't always feel safe. But we remember and we reclaim that we unite through feeling. We allow ourselves to dissolve into this oneness. And we understand that this tenderness, this soft heart that we're called into is quite literally what we have been praying for when we pray to embody more of our higher selves, when we pray to be a vessel for more of the divine to channel through. This breaking down, this feeling state, this opening, this cracking open is actually our initiation. Feeling as initiation. So, we all desire to give and receive love in unity with the whole web of life. And it is through the gateway of feeling that we enter the world that creation has desired for us. Feeling is holy. Feeling is sacred. In this process, we learn to let go of what we think we need or what we think will sustain us. None of these attachments bring us freedom, only chains. Come, beloved, let us enter the world of feeling, frequencies of union, so that we can not only know ourselves, but enter into the bridal chamber and fully fuse with all that is, the absolute and the one and only. And then again, we have this holy prayer. So please replace Holy Mother and Holy Father with whatever you would like. It could be cool to experience this as your own inner mother and inner father. Again, just pointing to that as an option. Really beautiful for Virgo season 2. Beloved Mother, Father, God, thank you for endless opportunities to be love in action. As I take a breath into my heart, I thank you, Mother, Father, for your glorious radiance that is shining within and upon me now. Open me, Mother, to my deep and previously unexplored feelings. Expand me, Father, into my range of emotional frequencies, both human and divine. Grace me with the availability and presence to merge my feelings and pull from within them the most unspeakable wordless expressions that can only be transmitted and imbued into one another through feeling. I want all of you, God, Goddess, Source, and I want you to know me. I shall live my life as a holy expression of divine marriage in every realm of existence that I inhabit. I am yours and yours alone. We are yours and yours alone. It is our pure joy to love you in all of the fathomless expressions and encounters that you playfully send our way in every single moment. Amen. Aho. And so it is. It is done. It is done. It is done. So, reflecting on this, reflecting on being love in action, your call right now, as you embody love in action, is to, first card, Inanna, the Queen of Heaven and Earth. The call is to see and accept all that you are. You are being called right now to affirm how right now you are the living prayer of your ancestors. You are being called right now to affirm how you are living what you prayed for. You are being called to examine right now, how can I be a vessel for more love to move through? This is our last reading, and then it's all pure channel notes referencing from here. But we have some really important readings coming forward today, and we're straight up in the mystery school. It's September. It's back to school vibes. So this is just what wanted to come through for this drip. So here we are. Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth. I see and accept all that I am. I have nothing to hide. Inanna represents the power that comes back to us when we accept and integrate our shadow. Inanna was the most prominent female deity in ancient Mesopotamia. At the height of her worship around the Uruk period of 4000 to 2000 BCE, temples and shrines dedicated to Inanna lined the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Her name is Sumerian for Lady of Heaven. Her temples housed her priestesses, and they each would take a man to bed with them on the spring equinox to reenact the divine marriage between Inanna and her consort Dumuzi. So it's interesting because we were just talking about the divine marriage between you and your higher self, you and the divine, you and divine mother, divine father, God, Goddess, source, universe, however you want to experience the consciousness of all conditional divine knowing. What did the embodiment passage talk about it as? Permeated divine awareness. We could just call it divine awareness. This is talking about also, this card is also talking about this integration, this marriage between you, your human self, and that divine awareness, which would anoint any part of your human consciousness that is in fear, shame, guilt, doubt, grief, hate, ignorance, censorship, denial, illusion, attachment. Your higher self-consciousness can anoint all of that. Inanna is pointing to the integration of that, and she's about to tell us how she did that. So, the Hieros Gamos, I think that's how you pronounce it, which talks about the divine marriage, is an ancient ritual of uniting opposites from within. That first embodiment passage was also talking about you, magical earth angel, your task being to embodying all of the opposite opposing energies of the universe in one vessel, and that being your power. So this also affirming that again. So now we have this passage affirming the last two passages that we already introduced to the altar. And I do not channel this like in sequential order. It's not like I'm like pulling these because I pulled a Nana or whatever. Like these are coming through divinely orchestrated for us, for you, for this coven, because this is what's on the altar right now for the mystery school. So Inanna's saying, this is an ancient ritual that you're being invited into right now of uniting the opposites from within, the male and female, the light and dark, and especially heaven and earth. This theme occurs in accounts of Inanna's descent into the underworld to find her sister Ereshkigal. She must take off an article of clothing at each of the 7 gates. 7 pillars, hello. So that when she finally reaches her sister, she is naked. And when Inanna ascends, she does so with Ereshkigal's power. So that's what we experience in the 7 pillars practice. We go through these 7 initiations, and then at the end, we are emerging with the power that we conjured through our willingness to meet these 7 different aspects of ourselves. So what an affirmation of the practice that you're investing time, energy, and resources in. What an affirmation to you investing time, energy, and resources in you, in your process of self-healing, self-retrieval, self-realization, self-empowerment, revolutionary self-love, and metamorphic growth. When your soul selects her card, Inanna goes into the depths of her own unconscious to merge with her twin sister self. She becomes more powerful. She becomes more powerful because she is no longer using conscious psychic energy to keep her shadow or negative attributes hidden deep underground. She courageously descends and faces the aspects of herself that are hard to get to when she's fully dressed. So fully dressed or cloaked heavily in the ego. So when we're cloaked in the ego, when we're cloaked in all the stories, it's going to be hard to access that higher self light, that higher self truth, that higher self identity. So we go into our practice to unfreeze and to unblock the ego and the stories of the ego. To integrate, right? Because embodiment is presence and integration. And then we're in our prayer practice because we're interested in communion with spirit, and we're interested in honoring our feelings as wisdom. So to do either of those things is to be in a prayerful practice. Inanna is an invitation to get naked. Maybe you do this devotional dance practice we're about to do if you're in the membership naked. She wants us to drop our defenses. She wants us to see how holy and sacred it is to be vulnerable. As above, so below. This is an alchemical adage that suggests heaven and earth are not so separate. It suggests that within us, deep down in the dark cages, we place parts of ourselves, the truths that exist there. It suggests that within us, deep down in the dark cages where we place parts of ourselves, the truths that exist there also exist right here on the surface of our everyday lives. So when we think we're hiding stuff way down deep within there, it's showing up in our lives. Our self-doubt, our self-neglect, our self-abuse, our self-hate, our self-censorship, our self-denial, our attachment to the past and old versions of ourselves and practicing our past instead of practicing the potential of the now and the future. It's all going to show up in our physical reality. Inanna is essentially telling us a truth that Dr. Joe Dispenza also teaches about in his research, which is there's no separation between the subconscious mind and the body. And then there's no separation between the body and our lives. So everything is just continuously manifesting. We're not just manifesting what we want, we're also manifesting what we don't want. That's a law of the universe. Anana is saying, so if we are exerting great amounts of energy to keep from seeing our shadow, it is actually playing a large role in our conscious life. So when we're in avoidance, it's showing up. When we're not embracing all parts of ourselves as sacred, we're going to be walking around with a broken leg and in our self-denial thinking that we have to become something different or better before we can claim the love that is our divine inheritance. Before we're going to make ourselves meet certain standards before we have a right to embody our prayer, to manifest what it is that we want and inherently deserve, not because we've been good enough, but because we are just good. Is that registering? I know you're not here with me live, but I feel like you are. So if you're in the comments, if you're watching right now, drop in. You can drop into our Discord and let me know how this is resonating so far, or you can drop in on YouTube. How is this invitation to embody your prayer and retrieve and reclaim all parts of yourself? How is that hitting? When we can face what we think is dark or negative about us, I mean, really embrace it and see it for what it is, a beautiful broken place that's a call for love. Then we can emerge more whole. We can marry the light and the dark aspects of our being, and in uniting with our twin sister from the depths, we can stop projecting her onto other people. We can see and own the hot mess we can often be ourselves and not get sabotaged by it. The light must cast a shadow, and the high priestess is the one who gets called to love them both. Soul voice meditation. Can I love my shadow as much as my light? Intention, I have nothing to hide. I see and accept all that I am. So, rock yourself to peace, dear child. Hear your higher self say, I am here with you. Feel your higher self say, beloved, I am you and you are me. Inhale into your bigness, scooping up all parts of yourself and holding yourself so closely and tenderly that no separation remains within you. And then ask, what needs softening and soothing within me? And let that love reach there. If you want to strengthen your faith, you will need to soften inside. For your faith to be rock solid, your heart needs to be soft as a feather. This is from Elif Shafak, who is a Turkish novelist and has incredibly beautiful work that I'm really excited to tap into. This is from a transmission that she offered, but it is a quote from the 40 Rules of Love, which is a novel by Rumi. And if you haven't tapped into Rumi's work, I also highly recommend. And that quote I found in the Sacred Relationships book. So again, it is Sacred Relationships, the Practice of Intimate Erotic Love. And this is what it looks like if you want to go check it out. So let's go into our next card here. We've got Hawk coming forward, who is the watchful, all-seeing messenger of divinity. When this card is in balance, it sees clearly and intuitively. When out of balance, it's suspicious and it sees too much. To bring into balance, it calls for a perspective shift. Ask for help. Ask for help and do not block your blessings. Remember that to pray is to communicate. So quite literally in your practice, in your prayer practice, as you embody your prayer, as you're practicing embodying prayer, as you're practicing prayer as an embodiment practice, quite literally reclaim your right to ask, to speak out loud to a force within you that is unseen but deeply felt. Remember that prayer is communion and feeling. From a place of faith, from a place of a soft heart, from a place of communion and feeling, ask for help, ask for clarity, ask for the sign, ask for the message, ask for the thing that you want, and then practice a feeling tone in your body of deserving, of I deserve it. So ask from your softness, from your tenderness, from your innocence, what it is that you want, what it is that you need, what it is that you need support with, and then feel in your body that you actually deserve it. Because there's a deep call here to really mind your perception. We have perspective with the hawk, and then we have perception. What do you believe about yourself and the nature of reality? This is also your work, embodying your worthiness, your deservingness, and not making it conditional. Blessing your wanting and your yearning as holy. Knowing that the ultimate satisfaction every single time is going to be a reflection of the inner communion that you cultivate with the divine. Ultimate satisfaction is going to come from that communion. So there's a difference between wanting and yearning and praying for something that the innocence of your soul really, really wants, and then affirming your worthiness around that versus secretly judging and making what it is that you want wrong. So the hawk coming in to say, there's a message, there's a perspective, there's something coming into your life, there's something flying in. The invitation is to see this, to perceive this from the eye of the heart, from the perspective that you're being cared for and looked after. From the perspective of, if it's something that you want, then it is divinely delivered. If it's something that you're yearning for, that yearning is a feeling, and that's also divinely delivered coming from within. So affirm that yearning, affirm that wanting, and then don't judge it. When I wrote here in my notes, when you fully fucking accept, affirm, anoint, and lick every inch of yourself and that prayer like it's already done, like you are love and you are loved and being loved by the divine itself, then that thing you're praying for is already on its way to you. It's like a faithful confidence in the divine. It's like embodying you are a child of the Most High. So if you're a child of the Most High, then you're going to get to just embody your prayer. You're going to see that prayer arriving. You're going to see that what's in your life currently right now is exactly what you've been praying for, and you're going to embrace it as such, and that's going to create space for more to flow to you, through you, as you. Moving on to noticing the pattern, which came up really powerfully for episode 24. Highly recommend checking that out. This card feels like it's inviting us to notice also the gratitude. Noticing the gratitude for what's already in our life. And letting that gratitude be a powerful agent for embodying our prayer. Wow, I'm so grateful for the way that all of these things I've been praying for are already here. Notice and bring your awareness to what you have, and then notice how celebration is an amplifying energy that creates more of what you want. So are you noticing everything that's out of alignment? Or are you allowing your awareness to be drawn to what is in alignment? Last episode, we talked a lot about noticing the patterns that are out of resonance. I'm feeling called on this episode to invite you to notice how the patterns are in resonance. Maybe you made some shifts from that masterclass, and maybe now there's this opportunity to really celebrate the harvest of your devotion. If there are some patterns that you're being called to shift, well, it's going to be Mercury retrograde, so that's going to be a beautiful, beautiful time to go back to the drawing board and to scoop yourself up anywhere along the path where you've got a body part or a limb hanging out that needs to be breathed forward. My nose is so itchy. Sorry, I think I have a Wiggins hair in my nose. Okay, so notice and bring your awareness to what you already have, and notice how celebration is an amplifying energy that creates more of what you want. Fire. Next card. Illumination. Then allow yourself from a place of non-judgmental self-awareness. So awareness from the perspective of a self that never changes. Your higher self, your divine self, plus an awareness of the human self that is ever changing. From a place of being aware of your multidimensional I am presence, from a place of self-permission. Let this retrograde show you what's clearing and let it burn. So let whatever you noticed on that last episode of the Devotional Drip, whatever you've been called to notice, maybe even since 2020, there's been reoccurring patterns and themes on your altar. Let this retrograde that we're about to walk into from 9/9 until 10/2, let it show you what's ready to clear, and just let it burn. I was tending the fire all day today. You may even have heard it in the background during this drip. Fire wants wood. It eats it. It claims it. So give the fire that's present right now, give the heat that's present cosmically some material to work with. This isn't just for retrograde. Also, this is for any time there's a transmutation and transformation and alchemy on the altar. This is a resource that we use anytime we need to create change and create it fast. In alchemy, transmutation, and transformation, we need a base material to work with. In this case, we need something to burn. Again, 2020 to 2022 has been relentless. Chances are, whatever patterns you've been called to notice at this point are showing up as a reoccurring theme. So what is that for you? And if you have something to move or burn or create from within you, do it. The heat is up right now on the cosmic dial. The spark has been lit. There's no turning back. You can be scared, you can be nervous, you can even feel cranky about it, but it's time. You can be pissed off, not knowing how it's going to happen. You can be exhausted. You can feel totally overrun and spun out in a million ways and choose to do it anyways because you already said yes or you wouldn't be here. That's what the transmission of the Holy Mother specifically has to offer on this. I know I said it was going to be the last passage, but I just remembered and saw in my notes that I pulled another page for you. So let's go to, this is page 78 in this book. And it speaks to this so beautifully. This talks about the mystic Mary. So the Black Madonna is the mystic aspect of the Great Mother. She is the queen of the dark void, queen of the shadow, queen of the dark night, and queen of the destruction creation process. She is the birthing force of the divinized self through the absolute dismantling of the false self and every illusion. Sound familiar? Inanna, queen of heaven and earth. She instigates destruction, walks alongside you in your sorrow, takes you through the valley of death, and rebirths you as a clear and true Christed being. She is powerful. She does not take no for an answer, especially if you have previously said yes, yes, yes. Know that she is the force of the Divine Mother and learn to bow to her. She holds open the mystical gateway to gnosis. Know thyself. When we look at the Christ story, the Black Madonna is the crucifixion and resurrection aspect of this path. She is the humiliation, the exile, the abandonment, and the rebirth. Not for 1 second are you alone, for the Dark Mother is right alongside you, although it will feel as if she isn't, and that is her gift. That's so powerful, to be in the depths of darkness and to know that this presence is there even if you don't feel it. And that is the gift of the Divine Mother. That's the gift even if you can't see her, she is there. So whatever you're being called to act on right now, we said earlier, specifically, being love in action. However, you're being called to be love and in action right now. Know that your higher self is this flame. Your higher self is this hawk that I put down somewhere. Your higher self is this flame. Your higher self is this hawk. Your higher self is the spark. Your higher self is the divine permeated awareness. And your higher self is inviting you to use all material, all underworld material, all parts of the self, all of what's being transmuted right now as sacred material that's part of the alchemy. I also want to say that this fire card is pointing again to that inextinguishable light at the center that we talked about earlier. And praying is quite literally the act of perceiving or seeing through the heart. Hawk, all-seeing messenger of divinity, hawk vision. This vision pointing to seeing through the light at the heart because we're in a self-retrieval right now. So can you be in a state of prayer all day? Virgo says, can you keep the flame alive? Virgo says, tend to the fire of your faith. Stay lit, stay awake, stay aware, stay devoted, watching like a hawk. Continuously restoking the fire of your devotion. And also simultaneously embodying the peace that you are taken care of. So there's no need to control. The invitation is to simply embody your prayer. Communicate with spirit. We are communicating with the divine through all things. I believe this was, I know I pulled this card for Virgo season. I can't remember if I weaved this into our episode 24 or not, but this came through as one of the very first cards for Virgo season. You might have seen the mini drip on my Instagram about this. So we are communicating with the divine through all things at all time. My adornment for today was not random. I've got my psychic shirt. I've got my little butterfly earrings. I've got my pretty blue scarf that's keeping me warm and also reminding me to flow like water. Blue is also deeply connected to the throat chakra, as well as indigo blue specifically at the third eye. And we're doing a lot of channeling around self-acceptance today, which I've channeled and aligned as pillar 6, acceptance, in the 7 sacred embodiment pillars. So I'm bringing in my adornment. The space has lights, and I've got Kuan Yin behind me on an altar. I've got quite a few things up there on the altar that you can't see because it's dark, but I've got my salt lamp, I've got some plants, I've got the fire going in the other room. So I'm saying this because my space is set to be a vessel for spirit to move through, and I am also set to be a vessel for spirit to move through. So a prompt I want to offer is, what does being a vessel mean to you? Create sacred space to communicate with spirit daily. If you are part of the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot, as a part of your first as a part of your September higher self-care meditation and higher self-care ritual, there was this deep call to create sacred space. The assignment actually revolved around altar building and creating sacred space specifically. So check that out if you haven't tuned into that yet and you're in the membership. If you want access to that, you can join our membership, and you can look that up. It was the first higher self-care practice dropped for the month of September. So there's a deep intention in me inviting you to be in that inquiry, because not only is that the invitation for Virgo season, but also as we move into this Pisces full moon and the energy of claiming our vision as valid and powerful, we want to be able to be a vessel for that to move through. So you can create sacred space in your home, and you can also create sacred space in your body by being in your physical practice, by being in your dance practice, by being in your movement practice, and using that practice as your pathway to prayer. I'm always praying through dance. In fact, I prefer to do my prayer work through dance. I find that praying through movement supports me in just dropping into my prayer practice in daily life. So you can use the 7 pillars practice that we're going to drop into for the membership to be in your prayer practice. You can also use our Tuesday and Friday mind body centering yoga classes to be in your prayer and meditation practice. It is valid to pray and meditate through movement. Again, Virgo says, I am the hands and the feet of God. And then Pisces is deeply connected to the hands and the feet. So I feel there being this deep healing and intuition and feeling and ancientness connected to the heart. So this is where we are. We are in I am the hands, I am the feet, and I am the heart of God. Pisces connected to the hands and feet. And then I also feel Pisces specifically being very connected to the heart, and just this capacity to deeply feel. So this is where we are. So take responsibility for your communication with the world around you at all times. It's always happening. This is not another invitation and another opportunity that we're going to take to stab ourselves with. So sometimes when I invite people to communicate with the outside world, they start getting all these signs and they're like, is that a bad sign? Is that a bad omen? In my realm, there's no such thing as bad signs or bad omens, because the divine is the all-loving, benevolent presence that's communicating through everything. And that's frankly the only one I pick up the phone for. So I'm very clear about who I'm communicating with. I'm only here to communicate with divine love and nothing else, and my higher self and my ancestors who are down to work at that frequency of consciousness. I'm not just picking up the phone for any old energy coming through. So you're taking responsibility, your ability to respond and communicate with the world around you, and you're asking for the highest vibrational messages to come through, and you're not using it as another opportunity to beat yourself up with. This is the gift of true self-awareness. Awareness of the self that never changes. It's scooping up all past, present, and future versions of the self in this incarnation and loving them into their highest liberation. So, embody your prayer. You pray for your own heart. You pray for your friends. You pray for planet Earth. You pray to be the vessel for that which the prayer itself can pour its way through. You pray for all beings on the planet who are suffering, and may they be relieved of their suffering, and you can inhale their suffering and exhale their suffering and blast them with love. And you're called to embody this prayer. Embody this prayer for your heart. Embody this prayer for your friends. Embody this prayer for planet Earth. To be this vessel through which that prayer itself pours through. So if your prayer for planet Earth is for there to be more peace, then your invitation is to embody the prayer of your peace. If your prayer for your friends is for them to know their higher selves, then to embody your prayer is to know your higher self. If your prayer for your heart is to be more liberated and in love, then to embody your prayer is to practice liberation and love in your heart. Last card, create sacred space. We create sacred space so that all parts of us are not only safe to be in our practice, but are intentionally welcomed for the party. You as Inanna, welcoming all parts of yourself back home. You know that this is already on the task if you're in the membership. So you already know that your holy homework is to do this in your home and to do this in your mind, body, and heart through tapping into that meditation and dropping into your journaling. You can take this a step further by joining us in the movement practice after this drip. For everyone, some holy homework I want to offer for this is practice your prayer. What is your prayer for the planet? What's your prayer for your own heart? What do you want? Be in a practice of that. What is the biggest prayer on your heart right now? Embody that. Bring it into physical form. Identify as a child of the Most High, and then experience every other living creature of this planet and in this universe as the same, all lit up and connected at the atomic structure. You get to live from that consciousness if you want. One of our questions that came through was tips and advice for maintaining our center when everything outside of us is determined to throw us off our path. Embody your prayer. Trust that it's happening for you. Embrace the mystery school for real. And understand that the task right now is higher self boot camp, especially through retrograde. Create sacred space in your home, in your mind, in your heart, and in your body as much as you can, as often as you can, and then affirm what it is that you created. Affirm that it is enough. Affirm that your devotion is enough. It was enough. I did a good job. And then get used to patting yourself on the back and saying, wow, you made it through that part of the labyrinth. That was a big deal. Good job. Also, for maintaining that center, it's finding that center in your practice, resourcing that center in your practice in moments where you're not in crisis, which is how we actually build up nervous system resilience. So then in a moment of crisis, we can lean and tap into that. So that's where those Tuesday and Friday yoga classes are also going to be so beautiful. And of course, giving yourself the gift of the higher self meditations and the 7 pillars movement practices, and even sitting here right now with me being in this drip. This is a practice of feeling your center. So that's how I want to respond to that first question. The next one was advice for dealing with loneliness and how to build a friends group and community. Acknowledge that first and foremost, what you are calling in from outside of you is aspects of your relationship with the divine that you're being called to deepen and really pour into at this time. So let yourself be fed by that. Let some of that loneliness be fed there. So then you're not going out to create relationship from loneliness. You're going out to create relationship because you're so excited about this relationship with your higher self and the divine in the world that you're navigating right now. You're not creating relationship from a vibration or a feeling tone of lack. You're creating relationship from a vibration and a feeling tone of divine deservingness. Like, of course, I would need community and friends and people to walk this with. I'm going to act like this is already here. This is embodying the prayer, right? Like, we're really weaving it together. I'm going to act like this is already here, and I'm going to embody the version of myself that is already friends with all these people, and I'm going to go out and live my life that way, which watch then the restaurants, the yoga studios, the cool community events, the oracle shops, the art shows, the festivals, the dance parties that your higher self then brings you to. Go out and immerse yourself in the spaces where people are into the kind of stuff that you're also into, and create your community through shared interests. Also create your community from your practice of being full, of acknowledging that there's loneliness that, yes, can only be, well, how do I want to say this? Acknowledge that there's a feeling tone of loneliness that's asking to be anointed by various degrees of relationship and intimacy. First and foremost, it's asking to be watered by your relationship with the divine and your higher self and your practice. Then it's asking to be watered by your relationships. And that will change the way that you're building relationship, because then you're no longer building relationship from a place of like trauma bond and codependency. You're creating relationship from a place of sovereignty, from a place of knowing who you are and what you deserve. Like, I deserve community, I deserve support, I deserve friends. Go out and make it from that place. Embody your prayer. If your prayer is to make more community and have friends that feel really aligned, then act like it is already here. Feel the feeling in your body of that already having arrived, and get up every morning. Like, today could be the day that you meet the person or get invited to the thing that's gonna, set off the chain of reactions that helps you in building your new community. But first and foremost, embody your deservingness. Embody your deservingness. I'm going to leave that one there. The third question that came forward on our altar, and again, this is from our Q&A altar for my membership. So if you want to be able to ask questions and have them answered in relationship to what it is that we're channeling through for the devotional drip, that's also available and accessible at the $5 level. That's in the BBH Basics package. Again, link in bio to, not bio, link in the description to go to the membership and read about the tiers. So the last question before we just sum her all up and then go into our movement practice, which I'm so excited for, is guidance regarding vivid dreams, fear and anxiety around navigating the world as a single woman, and cutting ties with generational fears. There's healing happening in our dreams right now. So know that that's on the altar, and do not be afraid, because I am with you, is what I'm hearing. And it's that presence earlier I was speaking to of the mystic Mary, of the Divine Mother, that says she is powerful. She does not take no for an answer, especially if you've previously said yes. So if you're being initiated in your dreams, there's a chance it's an initiation you've already said yes to. And even if you don't feel like the Divine Mother is with you, she's saying, although it will feel as if she isn't, that is her gift. So know that even in these vivid dreams, even in these moments of feeling like you're doing some big work, you're not alone. You can call on your higher self in your dream. You can call on your higher self and the Divine Mother before you go to sleep. And in fact, I would recommend that as a part of creating sacred space if you're having vivid dreams. Really look at your sleep hygiene routine. Are you creating sacred space in your bedroom before shutting off the lights and going into that realm? Maybe play with putting on some angel frequencies while you sleep. You could do some like high vibrational sound frequencies free on YouTube. If there's fear and anxiety around navigating the world as a single woman right now and cutting ties with generational fears, protect yourself, create the container, create sacred space for yourself. What is it that you need right now? Kaya Ra, author of the Sophia Code and one of my teachers, talks about at one point being so traumatized to use metal forks and spoons because that was part of some torture that she had survived. Like she could not physically use metal and spoons or forks because that was some abuse that she had survived. Like those were instruments that are used, which is just so deep, like breath of compassion for every being on planet Earth who has navigated and survived abuse, including every member listening to this drip, including my own precious heart. Just taking a breath of compassion for all of that, and just inviting in all of our higher selves to give us a big hug, and the presence of the Divine Mother to invite our consciousness to know that we are not alone. So Kaya Ra couldn't use, she talked about in one of our classes, I think this was in the Transforming Trauma to Soul Power class or something like that. Highly recommend Kaya Ra's work. She was talking about not being able to eat with the metal fork and spoon, so having to carry around wooden spoons and forks for years when she was eating because her body just couldn't handle it. And that to me feels like that inner mother, inner father frequency we were talking about earlier. Like, I will not turn a sword against myself. Like, I will do what I need to do in order to protect myself, in order to create sacred space. So if there's fear, if there's insecurity, what do you need to do in order to create a sense of security for yourself? Yes, to a sleep hygiene routine. And then what is going to help you in feeling that out in the world? Of course, being in our practice is real, but a part of being in our practice is also taking the devotional action. So how would love have you create a sacred space of protection for yourself right now as you're navigating some of these memories, as you're purging some of this stuff that feels tender and scary, as you feel like you're cutting ties with generational fears? What kind of container do you need for that ceremony? Let yourself take up space in the container of that ceremony. We're going to practice that in our movement practice today, but I would say also practice that in the ceremony of your life. We've got hawk, we've got big old wingspan, taking up space. So, oh, do not pour out water. I almost just knocked a whole glass of water over. That would have been good for our clearing, but it was empty. So weaving this drip together, to say, to embody our prayer means to embody our truth, embody our desire, embody our higher self, embody what we love, embody our authentic expression, embody our multidimensionality, and embody our communion with spirit. If you'd like to take this practice into the somatic and spiritual exploration of sacred dance and somatic movement and some meditation and journaling, maybe even some mind-body centering yoga, you can join us in the Devotional Dance Coven. Again, if you're joining this as a part of the membership, you will see in the description of your video that I've linked you to our 7 pillars movement and meditation practice, so you can tune into that now if you'd like. And maybe you want to just sit and journal for a little bit, and maybe you want to come back to that movement practice at another time, and that's also totally valid. So please just be in your practice any way that you need to be. And then for my babes who are considering joining the membership so you can join us in this practice, you can click the link in the description to check out the different tiers of the blood, bone, and honey pot. And remember, our big meditation right now for embodying the prayer is to truly, actually, deeply in our blood and bones, be love in action. Be love in action. So go out and be love in action. If you'd like to be love in action in a movement practice, I will see you shortly. And until next time, be well, beloved soul. It is such an honor to walk with you. It is such an honor to channel with and for you and on behalf of your highest good. I hope that this served you. And we can just end on a mantra together. If you'd like, inhaling into, I have nothing to hide. Exhaling into, I see and accept all that I am. Thank you for being the queen of heaven and earth of your own consciousness. I'll see you in episode 26. Many blessings.